إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم. أهلا وسهلا بكم people. Just check that we've got the sound is coming through fine. I'm just gonna do a just give me a just give me a little sign that you can hear me all clear. I've kind of changed up the mic settings as I'm always doing. I'm always fidgeting with something here, so just to make sure that's coming through fine. Now just un momento. Right, I see. Yep, that's fine. All right, people. So tonight's episode of MindTrap, we've got an amazing guest. I'm just bringing in right before you right now. You can see that picture that you're seeing right there, people. That is not for one of those fashion magazines or of some celebrity. It is of a celebrity, but not of a pop star, and it's not a beefed up version of Pitbull. This is Ustad Atif Iqbal from Birmingham, a renowned specialist, a policy advisor on reducing criminality, a consultant trainer on building resilience to radicalization. He has designed, developed and delivered monitoring programs for vulnerable young people, and many of these have been on an international level as well. So, bringing in our guest, Assalamu alaikum, Ustad.
Wa alaikum salam, Mufti. How are you, my dear? Yeah? Social isolating. There's no kisses upon the hand tonight. No kisses upon the hand. But thank you so much, Mufti, for inviting me tonight. Alhamdulillah, I've been really looking forward to this. And also to talk about and allowing me to talk about the topic that I want to talk about, mashallah. Because I really it's an event that took place in history for which the ramifications, the reverberations, and the consequences of that event we are living with today. And inshallah, a couple of hours.
That's epic. Epic. And I think for people that ain't too familiar with all of these things, what we're kind of zooming in from a backdrop, a narrative of saying, well, there seems to be an air of, unfortunately, of a kind of like a very dogmatic and extremist, sometimes radical kind of thought element that is present, unfortunately, although it may be in small quantities, but still very visibly present within religious societies, especially within Muslims. What is this all about? What is the etiology? Where was this born out of? I mean, was this always there, or is this something, a more recent phenomenon? So that's what we're talking about, ain't we, Ustad?
Inshallah, that's what we'll talk about.
All right. So, first of all, I mean, how is this an area of passion for you? I mean, some people might think extremism, radicalization, just something I'd rather not think about. How has this become an area of passion for you, Ustad?
For me, it was, like you said, there's always there's a small, minute population that actually actively get involved, right, in extremism, right? And then there's a greater number, which I categorize, Mufti, as jihadists. Okay?
Jihadists?
Jihadists. They're not jihadists, they're jihadists. Yeah. They like going onto certain forums, they'll download certain literature, they'll watch certain videos, they'll quote certain names. Do you understand? They'll dress in a certain way, they'll bounce up and down in a certain manner. I categorize them as jihadists, right?
Kind of armchair jihadists.
Armchair jihadists, right?
Yeah.
Jihadists.
Yeah.
And then you have the consequences of the actions of a few which impact upon the many. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt in that. You look at it from a perspective, when it comes to even myself traveling across Europe, catching planes, going through an airport, generally walking around, the way I am perceived, and the way I am construed, it is a certain stereotype.
Of course, and the viewers can't see here because of the way the angling, but you cannot truly appreciate the bicep size of Ustad right here. I mean, they are like, you've got that, the boa constrictor python kind of. Oh, that's what they are.
Mashallah Mufti, they're tools to my trade. That's what it is. Mashallah, when I'm working, in the inner cities of Birmingham, with a group of vulnerable, high risk, full of testosterone, bravado young men,
Yeah.
you understand? A tight t-shirt always helps.
Oh yeah.
Always helps.
Yeah. So I mean, so this area, it's not an you don't find it kind of like morbid or sometimes a bit depressing, or people might have these thoughts that, look, this kind of an area of just looking at people and extremist thought, and this is like, it just leaves me on a downer. People might think that. I mean, do you feel something like that ever, or what's your?
There's no difference than looking at this area when I look at all the other, how can I put it, negative influences and negative vice and the negative activities which exist within inner city areas.
Yeah.
Okay. When I look at things around criminality, when you look at things around drug use, do you understand? When you look at general behavior, when you look at low academic achievement, do you understand?
Yeah.
When you talk to young people and you think, my God, what are your aspirations? What motivates you? Do you understand? What is your objective? What is your goal in life? When you look at all these things, of course, there's an element where you're gonna feel down and maybe I don't like using the word depressed. But on the other side, this has always been my focus. If you can help one or two, then you've done your part.
Yeah.
Okay? Because the reality is you're not going to be able to change the whole system. Do you understand? Look, let's be honest here. With all the resources that the police and the security services and every other agency, the youth service, well, when it existed, now it's been totally decimated.
Yeah.
Social care, all these other services, with all their resources at their disposal, if they can't resolve the problem, you've got to be realistic about this. You're not gonna resolve the issue. But what you are going to do, not the overall problem, what you will do, you will, inshallah, change the trajectory of maybe 1, 2, or 3. Yeah? Take them away from a negative pathway to a positive pathway. And alhamdulillah, that in itself is fulfilling and gratifying.
Yeah. And also what you're doing is also showing many Muslims that, look, this is what the problem actually is. You're unpacking it, you're dissecting it. You're not kind of leaving it as because people, Muslims are hearing in the media that, oh, Muslims are terrorists, or, they're being kind of labeled and stereotyped and pigeonholed, and people don't know, like, they know that, they ain't terrorists. They know that people they know aren't terrorists. So, where is the problem? Is it all a lie? Is everybody just always lying about Islam? Or does it actually exist? And in many ways, you're shedding light on that for these people and saying, well, this is what the problem actually is.
So, when you look at this whole agenda and the mediatization that has taken place, and the way the media portrays it, and the way the media, presents Muslims, and let's be honest, you look at some of the tabloid, front pages, and the articles and the headlines, of course they're discriminative towards Islam. Just and to Muslims. I'm not gonna sit back and say no, they're not. Of course they are. Even when it comes down to government policy and the certain agendas, you understand? They are discriminative towards Muslims. There's no doubt about that. Okay, but however, we've got to look at the other side of the spectrum as well, right? And we do have challenges within our community. Why is it that on Bethnal Green, a few years ago, 3 young schoolgirls, aged between 15 and 16, suddenly decided to fly over and join ISIS.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Why is it that young people, yeah, for no, have been brought up in this society, educated in British schools, in schools, the mother tongue now is English. It's not Urdu or Bengali or Arabic. It's English.
Yeah.
Their culture is the British youth culture. Yet something occurs during that trajectory. Because you also got to remember, radicalization in itself, Mufti, as you know, is not an event, it is a process.
Yeah.
It is a process. It's not an event, it's a process. So going down that route, you understand, how is it that they end up in suddenly, in the front line in Syria? These things have to be explored. And one of the things that really concerned me, Mufti, was, years ago, when you used to come across somebody who was categorized as being radical, it was just pure testosterone. Do you understand? It was very much, the whole gang's agenda, the teenage brain, and I've got to feel part of something. Mufti, the last few individuals that I have engaged with, it frightened me because they have internalized the narrative, to a level. I was blown away how these individuals had internalized all these concepts, the ideology, the politicized concepts, and there were young people that had done this, and I thought, whoa, it is changing now. It is changing. And one of the things that I've always pushed, especially with the policymakers, is do not let the debate and the discussion go underground.
Yeah.
Because remember, as it's a process.
And by that, when you say don't let it go underground, what do we mean by that? As in, don't censor it? Is that what we mean?
Yeah. What I want to do, and what I should be, in order to tackle this phenomena, is to have that open discussion. Do you understand? That open discourse, that debate in a safe space. Do you understand? Yeah. So I know, that young people that I'm engaging with and I'm talking to and I'm discussing with, do you understand? What is their mindset? What is their opinion? What is their belief at this moment in time? Do you understand? Because once I know that, then I can slowly start unpicking it or giving them an alternative viewpoint, alternative references and alternative sources. Yeah. But because the debate, the discussions have gone underground, a lot around because of the agenda now and the securitization of this agenda, those discussions are not being had. And if they're not being had like individuals like myself and individuals like yourself, but there's certain individuals who are having those discussions with them and pulling them and seducing them, into a very romantic narrative, because it is a romantic narrative.
Yeah. I mean, are we saying, like, let's just say for people who are maybe new to this discussion, we're saying, well, the first step is admitting that there is some problem. Is this what we're saying? That there is a problem?
I would say, I think the first step is to admit that we do have some challenges.
Yeah.
And this is the thing about it. We do have some challenges.
As opposed to denial, just being, because sometimes you get people saying, no, even if, like, so there was this a while back, if you remember, with the tragedy of the Manchester bombing. I think it was it the Ariana Grande or the one of them, but at that time there was this social media discussion that is it okay to inform on if your neighbor or somebody who happened to be a Muslim and he was highly suspect. Like you as a Muslim were thinking, I don't think this guy's up to some good. I think he's got some explosives, or I think he's got something. Should you be? Is it haram to inform on these people, to phone the police? And I remember Abu Isa, Sheikh Abu Isa, had this whole Facebook post saying, look, people, you need to, if there's something suspicious like that, or if somebody's an extremist, like if somebody. You haven't seen anything, but he talks about we should kill kuffar, or kuffar deserve to die, or even if he's saying we shouldn't kill them, but they deserve this, and he was saying that you should report this. This is extremism. But the reluctance that Muslims at that time, this is a few years back, that kind of tragedy, but that the social media thing was saying, oh, but they're Muslims though, and this really right? And people were in a stage of denial that they weren't prepared to accept that we have any challenges amongst us.
Look, the other another, you raised a very very valid point of this, and let's take it away. Let's take away the individual isn't a Muslim. You understand? And let's say the individual isn't saying, let's kill the kuffar and let's kill the infidels and big up ISIS. Let's say the individual was a non-Muslim and that individual is promoting hate and violence and killing of a certain ethnic group.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say like a neo-Nazi or a far right. Yeah. And
if that individual lived next door to you, would you report him or her?
Very good point.
That's the question that you need to ask. Because the reality is, I mean, you can answer this far better than me when it comes to issues around fiqh and the sanctity of human life and the preservation of human life. Do you understand? I mean, you can tell me at this moment in time, is there a criteria? Okay, are we sanctifying, protecting Muslim life or non-Muslim life?
Exactly, it's life altogether. Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, we gotta talk about, in my opinion and in my research, and in my analysis, where did it all begin, Mufti?
Allah, where did this virus? It was not Wuhan.
All right, don't blame the WHO on this one. Yeah, I confirm the WHO were not involved in the siege of Mecca. Now, when I started working on this agenda, I've got a very very inquisitive mind. I started doing a lot of research because you always have to ask, look, how did it all begin? Because you know and I know nobody wakes up one day and reads verses of Surah Tawbah and Surah Baqarah and think, yeah, that's it now. I'm off. I'm going to go off to jihad. Do you understand?
Exactly.
What happened? Why was Al-Qaeda formed? Why did the Russians invade Afghanistan? Do you understand? Why did these individuals suddenly go on such a conservative, austere, understanding, of an ideology? But even today, we are feeling the reverberations and the consequences today. And that one event, Mufti, was the Siege of Makkah.
The Siege of Makkah, people. The siege. Not the movie, but the real event, the siege.
The forgotten Islamic uprising in the most holiest of places. Yeah, the Haram. You understand? The majestic majesty, of the Masjid al-Haram was violated. Right? Mufti, both by the perpetrators who laid the siege and also by the authorities who attempted time after time after time to expel the rebels.
Now, this is something that, first of all, people have no idea that probably some people what you're even talking about now. They think this is the after effects of some of the mushrooms you've had for iftar. I want to be clear that those mushrooms, I had them, and that wasn't Ustad Atif, right? But there was people. Those of you that do not know, the holy site of Mecca was held under siege. It was taken hostage.
It was taken hostage. And look, what I'm going to do now, Mufti, I'm going to present this in 4 parts. Okay,
go.
That's fine with you, Mufti,
Absolutely.
Please forgive me if I take over your show. Please.
No, this is for you to take over, just as they took over Mecca and destroyed Islam. I want you to do a siege right here.
This is the siege.
This is the siege.
This is the siege of MindTrap, Mufti.
Allah.
So, in 4 parts. Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Yeah, 4 parts.
Siege of Mecca. Secondly, the historical context that led up to the siege of Mecca. Right.
Okay.
Then, in more detail, the siege. Yeah. The events that took place and how finally the Saudis, finally apprehended and expelled the rebels and so forth. And fourthly, yeah, the global consequences, yeah, and the global ramifications of that one event that took place nearly 40 years ago. And for us Muslims, there's so many events that have taken place in history, yeah. But the contemporary world we are living in today, Mufti, do you understand?
Yeah.
When individuals talk about Islamophobia, when they talk about Islamic militancy, when they talk about discrimination, and why are we getting classed and categorized as terrorists and extremists, all goes back to the 20th of November 1979, which was a Tuesday. Okay?
Whoa. That was the same year in which I was born. It was a sign. It was destined to be, people.
There's no time that you were born on the 20th of November.
No, I was born in January. Almost forgot that. Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
So yeah, 20th Tuesday, November 1979, folks.
An individual called Johamin Utebi, right, led, yeah, a group of rebels. I say a group of rebels, but some estimates there's 200 of them, some say three, some say up to 400 of them, yeah, rebels, yeah, who entered into the Grand Masjid just after Fajr. And remember, this was a time where the Hajj season had just finished. You understand?
Yeah.
A lot of the pilgrims had left, but there was still a huge amount of pilgrims inside the masjid. Some estimates say 100,000 were still inside the masjid. They came in, they had access, they had machine guns, rifles, sniper rifles, grenades, explosives, detonators. They walked in, they sealed the doors, shot the guards that put up any form of resistance, right? Went over to the Imam, and I think the Imam at the time was, if I remember correctly, was Sheikh Muhammad ibn Subayl. Okay. They went up to him, and his first reaction was, "Oh, I know these faces because some of them were his students." Mufti,
wow.
Some of his students, right? So he's thinking, "Oh, I know these faces." They took the mic and they made an announcement, yeah, that they are taking over the Grand Masjid, right? Some of the rebels positioned themselves in the minarets around the masjid with sniper rifles and began shooting any police officer or anybody that they deemed or categorized, or they may think, oh, he's part of the security service. They picked them up. And these individuals were well armed and they were well trained. And the siege of Makkah lasted for, what was it, nearly 15 days. Okay? Now, what led up to this event? Jansan, yeah? What would have influenced, yeah, a group of Muslims, and these individuals were religious fanatics, they were zealous. What influenced them? What motivated them? What were the drivers? And I just want to throw this in. What were the push and the pull factors, Mufti?
Yeah.
What were the push and the pull factors?
For people that don't know, those are common terms that are often used.
Yeah. In the world of counterterrorism, what were the push and the pull factors that led these individuals not only to take siege of the most holiest of holiest places in Islam, but also be prepared to kill other Muslims?
Yeah.
In order to understand that, we gotta go back a few years. You understand, Mufti? Absolutely. And obviously, let's look at the situation within Saudi Arabia, all right? And let's go back to 1970 to understand what was happening in 1979. And to give you an example of revenue, in 1970, yeah, Saudi Arabia's oil revenue was about $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
In 1979, the oil revenue was about 100 billion. So look at the exponential growth in this revenue. So in the mid 70s, coming into the latter part of the 70s, with all this influx of all these petrol dollars that were coming in, Saudi Arabia embarked upon a second modernization program. Okay? The first program took place in the 40s and 50s when oil was first discovered, and that was largely around infrastructure, roads, and telecommunications and power and all this kind of stuff. That's what that was around, building hospitals and schools and houses and homes. That was the first phase of modernization. The second phase of modernization was, you know what? Entertainment. Do you understand?
Okay.
Television stations, radio stations, shopping malls, entertainment places, entertainment parks. This really disgruntled, and grated, upon the conservative ulama, the clerics within Saudi Arabia, who saw this, as this satanic influence, permeating, the sacred Islamic emirate of Saudi Arabia. Do you understand? Yeah. And also, as you know, within Saudi Arabia for many, many decades from its formation, there was always a balance of power. You had the House of Saud and you had the ulama, the clerics and the scholars. The House of Saud couldn't take any major decision without consulting and getting agreement from the ulama first.
Yeah.
So
the Alu Sheikh, the family of the Sheikh, yeah.
Power, yeah. Now, why was it that Saudi Arabia's oil revenue went exponentially increased so much? And to understand that, let's go to 73, the Yom Kippur War.
The Yom Kippur War, okay, in Israel, okay.
1973, when the Arab countries collectively, Syria, well, Jordan was meant to, but there's a debate whether it did or it didn't. Syria, Jordan, and Egypt were going to attack Israel simultaneously at the same time. Yeah, which they did. Yeah. However, it wasn't very successful. Yeah, because I'm not going to get into too much detail about the Yom Kippur War, but the Israelis were able to, repel and push back the Arab armies, and also they took quite a bit of territory as well during that Yom Kippur War. Right now, that defeat put the Arab world in it was in a state of depression, thinking, oh my, how was it that such a small country like Israel, was able to defeat, the collective might of the Arab armies, okay? Now, the answer, obviously, the conservative clerics of Saudi Arabia, they had the answer to this. So they went to King Faisal at that time and said, do you know why we lost the war? The reason we lost the war, because of the Americans. Okay. Because the Americans were supporting Israel, through weapons, through resources, giving them, satellite imaging and all the rest of it. It's because of the Americans. What you need, and then they reminded King Faisal, of the agreement, that President Roosevelt made with King Abdul Aziz on the USS Quincy Jones in the late 40s. When King of got assurance from President Roosevelt that, look, you're creating a Jewish state right in the heart of the Arab lands. Yeah. If us Arabs one day decide to attack, I want your assurance that you will not support Israel. Okay. Roosevelt gave Abdulaziz that assurance.
Did he? He did.
Yeah, because at that moment in time, Saudi Arabia was soon becoming the biggest oil producer in the world. Yeah. And oil consumption was increasing year on year on year globally. You understand? The dependency on Saudi oil was becoming, it was increasing manyfold. So obviously he wanted to appease King Abdulaziz, knowing full well that he's never going to stick to that commitment. Yeah? Yeah. But they reminded King Faisal that look at this agreement that was made, and they reneged upon this agreement. So now you use the weapon at your disposal, the weapon of oil. So what did King Faisal do? He turned the taps off, Mufti. Do you understand? Turned the taps off on Saudi oil. No Saudi oil on the world market.
This is that famous, the whole kind of crisis in the 70s, isn't it? What
happened. So this, obviously, when it came back on the markets, oil was like $130 a barrel back in the 70s. Look how ridiculously high it was. And all of a sudden, you understand, all this massive amount of revenue coming in. So now you had the Saudi ulama and the clerics who basically disgruntled by this modernization program. As far as they were concerned, it was a satanic program. Now, most of them were like, okay, we'll do our criticisms, we'll do this, we'll. But one individual, Johaim Utaibi, yeah, who led this rebellion, right? And remember one thing: the Saudis always tried to pass this off as what? That it was some type of, local incident, and they even tried to blame the Shia. Oh, it's a.
Yeah, because it's also the same year that the Iranian Revolution has happened,
Revolution.
isn't it? Yeah.
And it's also
I
the
think
same
that
year.
actually happened on or one day before my birthday.
Yeah, yeah. That happened in the early part, yeah, and it was also the same year, yeah, or very close to the end of the year when the Russians invaded Afghanistan.
When they made what, sorry?
When the Russians invaded Afghanistan.
Oh, damn. Was that in 79 as well?
17,
Damn, it's an
but
interesting year, people.
it's a very interesting year. It's a very interesting year. So now you had one individual, Johaim Otaibi, and he basically was so angry about what was going on.
And I've brought up his picture, by the way, and on the screen for the viewers. They've seen it, and I've also brought up a kind of slideshow of some other pictures, so you can see them time to time whilst Ustad Pape is talking. Now,
Johaim Otaibi, right, decide to take it one step further. He becomes openly critical of the House of Saud to such an extent that he does the feed on King Khalid in the House of Saud.
Okay.
He pronounced them as non-Muslim
Kafirs,
right?
Yeah.
Because they have become so influenced, yeah, by Satan, and they're allowing all these satanic influences and ideas permeating and manifesting in the Islamic Emirate of Saudi Arabia. So he pronounces them as non-Muslims. Okay. Now this was basically a shock to the House of Saud, because generally thinking, all right, at the end of the day, we've got a history within the House of Saud of gambling. We've got a history of, drinking vast amount of alcohol and all the other vices that we indulge in. But nobody's actually designated us as kuffar before.
Exactly.
So exactly. So the House of Saud is something that they couldn't tolerate. And also, just another footnote, this Johaim Otaibi, was an officer in the National Guard.
Okay.
And National Guard, and also a prominent student of Sheikh bin Baz.
Yeah. I mean, for people who don't know, that at that time, prior to this, what Atif is explaining here, prior to this, there had been a kind of religious movement called the Jama'atul Muhtasibatul Salafiyah that had...
isn't it?
Yeah, and they had, using the same name as Salafiyah, and it had a bunch of scholars in it. And what they were doing was, this was a kind of like, almost like a proto-Taliban kind of movement, where they were going around saying that people should be praying. Why are you not praying? Close your shop, go to Salah. And sometimes they got a bit physical, or even if they didn't get too physical, they were quite aggressive. But they were like a mini, almost like a state within a state. But they weren't, at that point, they hadn't blown up so huge. But amongst them were people like Sheikh bin Baz was a part of it. They had people like Sheikh Albani was a part of it. They had Sheikh Muqbil was a part of it. Bakr Abu Zayd, I believe, was the Amir. But at this time, it hadn't become violent in that sense, like extremist, like as extremists. And Utaibi, Johaim, which we're learning about, was a low-ranking member of that group.
Of that crew,
yeah. But later on, the official verdict is that crew got dismantled. But Johaim al-Utaibi goes solo apparently. But yeah, carry on. Sorry, Ustad.
Yeah. I mean, like you very well pointed out, the crew gets dismantled, but the ideology and the influences of that crew still exist today.
Of course.
It still exists today.
Yeah.
Because that's how prominent, like you've mentioned, the scholars, look how prominent some of those scholars are within the whole genre of Salafiyah, who are part of that crew.
Yeah.
So this Johaim, they became an offshoot from that, right? And, obviously he was so, in his own words, he was so disgusted by the modernization programs that were taking place within Saudi Arabia that him and his followers decided to live a life of Bedouins. They actually went and camped in the desert. And interesting, he had an international following. Do you understand? So
did he have quite a substantial following at the time?
He had quite a substantial following.
Wow.
Amongst followers, you had people from America, from Europe, from the UK, Australia. It was when Joe Hamain and his crew, right, laid siege to Mecca. This was the first time globally we see an act of terrorism, perpetrated by an international jihadi group. Do you understand, Mufti?
Yeah.
It was an international jihadi group, and you look at the makeup, and the composition of these individuals. So he went and settled out in the desert because obviously he's so disgusted with modernity. And at the end of the day, how dare women come onto television? Do you understand? How dare we have radio stations? How dare we have bowling alleys? And oh my God, they've got cinemas and entertainment parks. Let's just shut ourselves away from it. However, the House of Saud, which is quite interesting, issued an arrest warrant for him and his crew, because obviously now they've dumped the feed on, King Khalid and the other senior ranking members of the House of Saud, which is totally unacceptable. Yeah. The interesting thing is this, the postman, that was delivering the warrant to the local police station also belonged to the Utaybi tribe. Also belonged to the Utaybi tribe. So what he did, before delivering the warrant, he went to see Juhaymain and he informed him, look, I've got your arrest warrant here. So you know what? I'm not going to hand it straight away to the police station. You need to make a quick getaway. Do you understand, right?
Okay. It's always good to help the Mahdi out. You gotta give him a helping hand.
So Mufti, he got away. However, unfortunately, some of his boys and some of his lads, and some of his crew, because there were female members within his crew as well,
Were there female members in his crew?
Female members,
you naughty Jay, man. I like it. I can consider. Tell him to resend me the application form. I might be interested.
A certain, a large amount of his rebels and his followers and part of his crew did get arrested, right?
Yeah.
So they were taken into prison, into jail, where they were subsequently, tortured and beaten. And then, have a guess who intervenes on their part?
All right, I'm intrigued.
Sheikh bin Baz.
Yeah, because he is the former, he's a part of that whole crew, the Jama'at al-Mu'tasibat al-Salafiyah.
Yeah, because remember one thing, when it comes to the concepts and when it comes to the ideology, there was no difference between them. No real difference with Juhaymain and all the other clerics in Saudi Arabia. The only difference being is they weren't prepared to lay siege to Makkah.
Yeah.
He did. That was the only difference. Other than that, exactly the same.
Because they were kind of all talk, and he was the one that's saying, let's walk the walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, bin Baz intervenes on their behalf because a large proportion of them were his students. So obviously probably didn't want too much information getting out there. It just sounds all right. So he goes to King Khalid and basically, on their behalf, and bequests King Khalid that look, they're young, they're a bit immature, they got a bit excited. Do you understand? They don't really mean the cap.
हो जाता है कभी-कभी जोश में.
You got a bit carried away. They got a bit excited, King Khalid.
Testosterone.
They've learned the error of their ways. Okay? So, let them go now. They've had their punishment. They've been tortured. They've been beaten. Let them go. So King Khalid releases them. Once again, the balance of power within Saudi Arabia. Do you understand? The House of Saud always wants to keep the conservative clerics on side.
You see, because people that are not so familiar with this is that, not going into this but for your own research, is that the way the kingdom in essence was set up, it was always an alliance between the Alu Sheikh, which is Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's kind of legacy and his offspring. And it was Al Saud. So these tribes, and it was an interdependency. They supplied the power, they supplied the religious legitimacy to rule.
And not only that, the followers of Muhammad ibn al Wahhab, they were great fighters because they were they were zealots. Yeah, and one of the tribes that was very, very fanatic and great fighter was again the Utabi tribe. It was the tribe of Utabi. Now, going back, you raised another interesting point. When Abdulaziz, took over Arabia and decided to name it Saudi Arabia because it's the only country in the world that's named after a man.
Wow, I never thought of that until you said it. He's like, what shall we call this? Shall we call this like pure land? Shall we call it the kingdom of hope? Shall we call it the sacred kingdom? He's like, shall we name it after Islam? He's like, no, let's name it after my dad.
Look how the irony of it. It's like calling it Atif Arabia or Arabia. That's the only country in the world which is named after a person, right? Wow. Saudi Arabia. Okay. Once he established it in 1926, then in 1927, you remember one thing. We're going back to Lawrence of Arabia. Yeah. The British supported the House of Saud. They supported the House of Saud. It's all there. Once he had established Saudi Arabia, in 1927, at the Treaty of Jordan, he asks permit. This is, what? Some of the stuff that I used to research and come across. I used to get so infused at that moment in time, Jansan. And so angry, you're asking the European powers, okay, fine, you've taken over, you want to become the monarch. But why are you asking the European powers if you can be the monarch?
Because one must take the correct blessings. Ashirwad lena zaruri hota hai.
And then Abdulaziz now is content. He's content. Look, I've got my kingdom. I've got my territory. This is it now. Let's put it simply. I'm just gonna chill now and rule, right? But the followers of Ibn Wahhab, and a lot of them were part of the Utabi tribe, they weren't content with this. What are you talking about, Abdulaziz? Jansan, we gotta fight the infidels. We gotta fight the heretics. We gotta fight the Shias. Jansan. So they started going further up north, attacking Shia villages. And obviously, from Abdulaziz's perspective, thinking, look, no more fighting. I just rule and chill. So what did he do? He called in the British, right? Who gave air support, and they bombed the tribe of Utabi.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Because they suppressed fanaticism and extremism in the kingdom in the 30s, but look what happened in the 70s. It raised up again.
It's like, they're pushing back, and then the reactionary, for every action, a reaction is going to come perhaps 10 times stronger.
10 times stronger?
Yeah.
Look, you've got children, and one of the greatest movies of all time for inspiration, for motivation, the best quotes is which? Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda.
Kung Fu Panda.
Awesome.
Listen to the quotes there. There's this one scene, I think it's in the first movie, where the baddie is the tiger, Tyrone, is all tied up in jail, and all the hippo guards are protecting him, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's the tortoise, whatever, Master Orokai, whatever, I can't quite remember the name, Pali Master. That basically, can you go and find out, if Tyrone is still locked up in prison? Is he still chained up? He hasn't escaped, has he? Yeah. And so Master Shifu was thinking, all right then, I'll send the duck to investigate, go to the prison and find out if he's okay.
Okay.
But just before that, I think he's Master Orokai. I might have got my names mixed up. It's Layth, all the rest of it.
It happens.
And thank you for the mushrooms.
What else can one do iftar with?
So he says to Master Shifu, before he sends a duck, he goes, be mindful.
Okay.
Sometimes you meet your destiny on the path you take to avoid it.
Oof.
This
Hi,
is
hi. That is deep, man.
sometimes you meet your destiny, and this is a kiddies movie. Sometimes you meet
Wow.
your destiny on the path you take to avoid it. So what happens? He sends the duck goes over to the prison, and he's having a look. All the rhinoceros, the guards, which are rhinoceroses, they're all in place, hundreds of them. Tyrone's there, tied up, chained up on the floor on a rock. Yeah. So the duck is flapping its wings, investigating, and what happens? One of its feathers drops down and it lands just by the paw of Tyrone. Yeah, and it gets the feather, and with that feather, it unlocks itself and it escapes from prison. Yeah. Sometimes you meet your destiny on the path you take to avoid it. Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Kung
Oof.
Fu Panda Mufti.
This Kung Fu Panda seems to be where it's at, where it's happening.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the siege.
Yeah.
Okay. So all these fanatics now, yeah, have been released, yeah, at the request
of His Excellency,
of the Grand Mufti bin Bham. Now, these individuals, rather than thinking, okay, reflecting on the error of their ways, yeah, that look, my God, we shouldn't have done this, we got punished, we tortured, all the rest of it. They saw this whole incident as divine intervention.
The Lord is on our side.
Yeah, we are upon the truth. We are upon the haqq. Hence why we were released from
Allah.
Understand? Yeah. So rather than diminishing, yeah, that extreme conservative, austere, black and white, we're not going to accept anything else ideology, yeah, rather than dissipating it, it galvanized it, Mufti. Do you understand?
Oof.
So now they became
galvanizes.
Even more, right? Now, the interesting part is this, that I always wondered, how was it, yeah, that Johimeng, right? And one thing they said about Johimeng, that he was quite charismatic.
Okay.
He had a lot of charm, he had a lot of charisma.
But
some even
that's often with kind of like cult leaders and things like that, yeah.
You think about all the cult celebrity leaders across from AQ, ISIS, look at all the major groups going, and even when you look at, the right-wing extremisms, you look at the Aryan Nation, all these individuals, yeah. Take Hitler as well, for example. There were always individuals that had charisma, had character, had that charm, even though it was misplaced. But they also said about Johimeng that, look, he had quite a hypnotizing nature about him, that if you sat with him, you'd suddenly become mesmerized by Johimeng.
Wow. Okay.
And you'd be like, totally submissive, and ingratiating to every one of his commands. That's the nature of Johimeng.
So just to bring up that beautiful, stunning stud right there, so people can see him. Look at that charisma, people. Oof, ye qatil nigahein. Qatil nigahein. Yeah, carry on, sorry.
So, I don't think we explore a lot further because look, carrying weapons into the Masjid al-Haram, like, it's not acceptable. Do you understand?
Of course.
Preparing to kill, to you know what I mean?
How did they sneak these in? I mean, they couldn't have just kind of stuck them between their lungi and just kind of walked in with it.
How they did it. This is the way they did it, right?
Yeah.
They've sealed it now because obviously, twice shy, once shy, the House of Saudi.
They couldn't have just said, "Are you? Is that a gun you're carrying, or are you just happy to see me?" It's like, no, I'm happy to be in the first row.
But back in 1979, there was a labyrinth of tunnels and rooms underneath the Mutaf area of the Haram.
Wow. Okay.
Just called the Kabu area.
What's it called? Oh, the Kabu. Yeah, the basement area. Okay.
It was the basement, and this basement was a labyrinth of tunnels and different rooms. And what they used to do in those days, anytime they had the janazah, the coffins and the mayats, sometimes they would place there, and then bring up janazah time, okay? So what Juhayman and his crew were doing was sneaking weapons and explosives in coffins, yeah,
Yeah.
walking straight past the security guards, yeah, going straight into the kibbutz. Because remember, some of these individuals' faces were known, you know, to the Imam of the Haram. They knew their faces. They were students of Bin Bas. Their faces were well known. You understand? So they entered into the kibbutz, and their coffins were full of weapons, and they started storing stuff. You understand? They used it as a depot for weapons, you know, for storage. That's how they got the weapons in over a period of 2-3 weeks, where they were slowly bringing them in each time. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
because I'd heard that, yeah, that it was with the bodies and things like that that they were sneaking them in. But yeah, damn, I see. It's like an extensive. I mean, this would have taken them what, like months? I'm assuming. No.
it wasn't a month because there's so many of them, and
Oh right, okay.
nobody's actually opening up the coffins to investigate and explore what was actually in them. Do you understand? There's no scanners. You know, the body had to go through. There was no security at the Haramain because nobody would have ever imagined, envisioned, or ever expected that anybody would lay siege to Islam's holiest place. Yeah, never mind Muslims. You understand? Or never mind a Muslim group that would do it. They never perceived a threat. Even the guards on the doors never had guns. They only started weapons after 79.
Wow.
So I started to explore further. I said, look, these guys were religious fanatics. Do you understand? Yeah, everything was black and white for them. You know, there was no grey area. So carrying weapons into the Haramain, totally unacceptable. Yeah, prepared to kill right in front of the Kaaba, totally unacceptable. Right?
Of course, yeah.
Totally, yeah. You know. However, look at the way Juhayman convinced them to do it.
Okay.
He created the Mahdi.
The Mahdi, all right.
He created the Mahdi. You understand? There was an individual amongst the group by the name of Muhammad Abdullah Qahtani. Okay. He was fair in skin. He had a big forehead. You know,
There goes. Definitely the one with the big forehead. Where is he?
On his left cheek. And Juhayman convinced him that he was the Mahdi.
Allah.
And he narrated all these prophetic traditions describing the Mahdi, you know, that the Prophet ﷺ said that he will have my name and my father's name. Look, you've got the name Muhammad and you've got the name Abdullah, Muhammad Abdullah. Do you understand? You are light in complexion. Do you understand? You've got those marks that the Prophet ﷺ talked about that would be visible on the Mahdi. You are the Mahdi. Wow. And then, you know, these rumors started, yeah, that I'm sure he probably instigated the rumors himself, that, you know, the pilgrims in Mecca, hundreds and thousands of them are having visions of you, Muhammad Abdullah. They're seeing you in their dreams. They're seeing you standing by the Kaaba. Do you understand? Yeah? With the banner of the Prophet in your hand. You are the Mahdi. And what did Muhammad do? Yeah, you know, for a couple of days, he went into like a spiritual recluse, thinking, okay, am I the Mahdi? Am I the Mahdi? And then when he came out, he said he was the Mahdi.
Allah. You know, it's something interesting on a side note, very quickly, is that I remember reading in this like a pop psych book, On the Couch, or was it called On the Edge? But I think On the Couch, and he speaks about his kind of opening chapter is about how every individual out there suffers from an extreme concern of two Polaroid thoughts. One is that they feel that, oh my God, that they are so, so incredibly bad, and someday the world will find out about them. And on the other hand, they feel that how is it that they feel they are so special as a person, the world just doesn't recognize it. And I feel that, you know, if anybody was to kind of using certain skills hone in on trying to tell you how special you are, this is just an example of how far that could go, because you just think, I am special. Of course I'm special. You'd be like, "Bah, of course I'm special."
And Johannes had those skills.
My mum used to always tell me I'm special. I just forgot the word special needs.
SEN, Mufti, SEN.
SEN. But yeah, so okay, so he buys into this himself, Muhammad al-Mahdi.
He's convinced, into, do you understand? He is convinced that this is his identity now. Do you understand?
Wow.
He is the redeemer that is going to come at the end of times. Do you understand? He is the one now who's going to lead the armies of truth against the armies of falsehood. Do you understand?
Allah.
And even to this extent, obviously, we talked about, the coming of Isa ibn Maryam, but in their view,
of course.
you are the one that is going to align yourself with Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. You understand? You are the Mahdi. And he was convinced. And not only was he, but however, it did cause a fragmentation amongst his group and amongst his crew.
Okay.
Some of them thinking, nah, this is just too far-fetched for us to believe now.
There's always the sober 2 or 3 in the group that are thinking like, does he expect us to buy that?
Nah, this is too far, man. No way. This is too far. You understand what I say? This is too far. Do you understand? Yeah. And then Johannes with his charisma and his linguistic skills, yeah, convinced the others that these individuals, had become heretics in a way. Do you understand? They had deviated away from the path. Do you understand? They had succumbed to satanic influences. So it's very, very good. Yeah. Well, I would say managing a crisis. Do you understand what thing? Yeah. Before peer pressure takes hold and everybody says, "No way, man, yeah. Muhammad Abdullah, you ain't not Mahdi." You understand? Nah. He saves it. Yeah. So the rest of them now are convinced this is it. We have the Mahdi with us, and we are going to go in and announce, as it is foretold, that the Mahdi will be announced at the foot of the Kaaba. We are going to do this. And why did he select the 20th of November 1979? Why the 20th of November, Mufti?
I have no idea. Why the 20th of September?
Because
November.
That was the dawn, of the new century.
Ah, damn.
Also, his followers, that at the dawn of the 15th century, that Mahdi...
The Islamic new century for people, just in case you're thinking... Yeah,
the 15th century. That's why he selected the 20th of November 1979. Because remember, everything had to fit into place.
So, yeah, of course. And that would have been... So that's the 1400s just beginning, people. Whoa, this is... Yeah, I see it. Mm-hmm.
That's why he selected that date. And then when they entered into the Haramain, just after Fajr Salah, it was packed. Because remember, the Hajj had just finished, so you still have, a large amount of pilgrims still around.
Yeah, of course.
The Hajjaj is still there, so they came in, they locked the doors straight away. Do you understand? Shot some of the security guards, Mufti, shot them dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Bloodshed, gunfire going off, in the Grand Masjid.
This is straight after Subah.
Yeah?
This is straight after Subah in the morning, after Fajr in the morning.
Yeah, straight after they're doing this, right? And then they walk over to the Imam, and the Imam at that time, I think it was Muhammad ibn Subayr, Sheikh Subayr, I think it was at the time. Yeah. They walked over to him. Obviously, he recognized them, thinking, these are my students. Okay.
Like, hey, friend.
Yeah. The next thing you know, they snatch his microphone away from him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hold him at gunpoint, and they do the announcement that the Mahdi has arrived.
Allah, he has come.
Yeah. Everybody prepare yourself and give your prayer and your allegiance to the Mahdi. And while the individual was doing the speech, the speech of the announcement of the arrival of the Mahdi, Johannes kept taking the microphone and giving instructions to his men. Listen, guys, you know, are you in the east wing yet? Guys, get onto the top north minaret. Yeah, 4 of you there. Okay, the announcement. Oh, yeah, guys, have you shut the doors yet? Have you done this? Have you done this? It was quite like that.
All
So
right.
people at that moment in time. However, as much as there was confusion that was taking place, there was also individuals who were thinking, has the Mahdi arrived? Has the Mahdi arrived? You know, are we so fortunate that we have
Has
witnessed?
he come in a non-innuendo way?
So now what happens? The masjid is under siege. His boys are up in the minarets, picking up security guards, police officers, firing at police cars, and these guys are well trained. Do you understand? A lot of them were you know, soldiers, you know, from in the National Guard. Jermaine himself was the officer in National Guard.
Damn.
So all of a sudden, this is it now. Yeah.
It's gone down, people. It's gone down.
South now is in a huge crisis.
The Kaaba is down, people. Haram has fallen.
Haram has fallen. You understand? So remember one thing. Externally, they go by the title of King Khalid, King Fahd, King Abdullah, King Sulaiman, whatever. But internally, they're a lot more humble, aren't they? They go by the title of the custodian of the 2 holy masjids.
Khadim al-Haramain.
Yeah, that's who we are. The custodians. But hang on, you failed here. You failed. You couldn't protect
Allah.
the most sacred, majestic place in Islam. You couldn't protect it. So what happened? What did King Khalid first do? What did he do? He ordered,
After having to renew his istinja and wudu, he's probably like, damn, I need to do istinja. First thing I need to do. But what's the next most important thing he did?
So then what he did was, because obviously this was a serious embarrassment for the House of Saud. You know,
of course.
You couldn't even protect the Haram. You know, with all wealth, you couldn't protect the Haram. So what did he do? He didn't want the information to get out. He ordered complete shutdown of all television, radio, telephones, communication, nothing.
Wow.
Saudi Arabia was on communique lockdown.
Allah incommunicado, people. It's going down. It's on lock.
However, what he never anticipated was the CIA office in Jeddah.
Okay, what about the CIA? What's this about? Okay.
They still have their open phone lines directly to Washington.
Okay.
So daily, the CIA officer would phone up, you know, Washington.
Yeah.
Speak to whoever the communication person was at that time and give them a briefing of the day's events. Mm-hmm. So he gave them the briefings, then he finished up. Oh, by the way, the rebels have taken over the Grand Masjid. They've taken over the Grand Masjid Mosque, you know, in Mecca. Okay? So next day, at the White House press briefing, you know, when the press secretary is giving, you know, telling everything about, and then he finishes up, oh, by the way, rebels have laid siege to the Grand Mosque in Mecca.
Okay.
It was like a wildfire.
In Washington?
No. When that information went global, it went global. Do you understand?
Okay, wow.
They said it in Washington. The Saudis tried to suppress it. We don't want everybody.
Right. Okay, I'm with you.
It went, once it hit, you know, every news organization and every news channel, every newspaper globally picked it up. Boom. It was like a wildfire across the Muslim world.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Makkah's been taken over, and then all the conspiracy theories come in. It's a Jewish conspiracy. It's an American conspiracy.
Remembering that it's the same year that at the beginning you've had the Iranian Revolution, you've had the hostage kind of thing. Now you've got this going
on. The hostage thing is still going on at this moment in time.
No, I mean the Iranian. Didn't they have the Iranian hostage thing as well, where they held the people?
You know, hostages. That's taking place as well.
Oh, that was still going on. Oh, wow. Okay. A lot of tension in the air, people. A lot of tension. Tense moment. I'm quite tense just talking about this.
So it's like a wildfire across the Muslim countries. Muslims are enraged now. Conspiracy theories, Americans, the Israelis, even one individual, yeah, by the name of Mehmet al-Agar, who was a Turkish guy in a prison. He was convinced, Mufti, that it was a Catholic conspiracy.
A Catholic, Allah.
And listen, Mufti, we may joke about this, right?
Yeah.
But he escaped from prison. He
escaped.
From prison.
Damn.
Listen,
the passion.
With the help of a prison guard, he escaped from prison, right? He finally made his way to the Vatican, St. Peter's Square.
Yeah.
And in 1981, he shot the Pope. He shot Pope John Paul II.
Damn. Inspired. It was like kind of inspired by this event.
Inspired by these events.
Wow.
This is what I'm trying to say to you when we look at the global ramifications of these events and the ripples that went. It wasn't a ripple, sorry. It was a tsunami.
Whoa, going down.
Global, man. He shot the Pope in 1981 in St. Peter's Square. The Pope nearly died. He shot him 3 times.
Damn, okay.
Because of the Seige of Makkah. Anyway, let's get back to the actual siege itself, right? So what started happening? So now you've got Muslims are angry all over the world, and what they're doing there, they start attacking, American embassies. Do you understand?
Okay, the usual go-to, like the obvious solution to every problem. What should we do? Attack the American embassy, duh.
Now, we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's just park that for one moment, right? Let's go back to Mecca and what's happening now. Yeah?
I mean, do these people have a game plan? Like, what are they thinking?
Let's talk about the game plan, right? So what was the game plan, right? So King Khalid then, called upon, the high-ranking princes, which are his brothers, yeah? Prince Naif, yeah? Head of the Interior Ministry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prince Abdullah, who later on became King Abdullah, yeah? Head of the National Guard, right? Prince Turki, Turki bin Al-Faisal, yeah? Head of the Intelligence Directorate, right? Then you had, Prince... Always makes me laugh when I say his name. Prince Bandar.
Bandar. Acha. Bandar. Bandar means monkey in Urdu. In Urdu, not in Arabic.
Prince Bandar Ibn Sultan, yeah, who's soon to go over to America. Do you understand? Yeah, and he's going to be the ambassador in Washington, right? So he calls them all together and says, all right, do you know what I mean? We've got this massive crisis, massive issue that is taking place, yeah? Okay, we need a game plan here. So what are we going to do? So each prince is saying, and this is it now. This is it, right? The most holiest place, yeah. In Islam, yeah, is under siege, right? And the sickening arrogance of the House of Saud is still prevalent.
Allah.
The sickening arrogance of the House of Saud. Do you understand? Yeah? And the total, disregard for the truth. Do you understand? And such, how can I put it? Such unbelievable incompetence on their behalf. So what do? They're trying to work out this game plan of what we're going to do here. Do you understand? Yeah. Prince Abdullah saying, basically I'll send in the National Guard. The other prince said, no, you can't send in the National Guard yet. We want, individuals from our departments to be involved as well.
Oh, so it's the intra-politics that's kind of like, okay.
Everybody wanted to be the one. It was, it was
the daddy. I'm the daddy. Yeah. I get to decide the final say. It's like that.
Yeah, basically my department is my people, is my individuals that remove the rebels. Do you understand? So what they did, everybody wanted their departments. The Interior Minister wanted his boys, the intelligence services wanted his, Prince Abdullah wanted the National Guard. They all do a simultaneous attack.
Okay? Simultaneous, okay.
Simultaneously, individuals from all our departments and respective
team building skills, team building opportunities, people. Team building.
We're all attacked. Bear in mind that these individuals from all these different
He goes,
units,
is there an Ain in team?
all these individuals, right, from all these respective departments, had never trained together. Do you understand, Mufti? Yeah, they've done no military exercises together. Yeah, they've never, done any form of exercise together to such an extent that even their radios were not synchronized together.
Wow.
Right? So the initial attack that took place, Mufti, what's the result of that? They decided to go in at night, we'll turn all the lights off,
Okay.
and we'll simultaneously come. So, okay, the National Guard will come from Safa and Marwa. You know what? You come from King Abdulaziz Gate. You know what? You come from the other gate, the Peace Gate. Do you understand?
Yeah.
No, radios weren't synchronized or anything. But there's one other important factor, that precipitated, right, this first attempt on removing the rebels.
Okay.
Because remember, we've got the Mahdi inside the Kaaba.
Okay.
What if he is the Mahdi?
Oh, that moment of doubt. After all, I have to answer to God someday.
Members of the National Guard were thinking, hang on a minute. And all the other different departments and security agencies, some of them are thinking, hang on a minute. If that is the Mahdi inside the Kaaba, and we are going to go and fight the Mahdi, you understand? We are going to have eternal damnation in the hellfire.
Oh,
you understand?
Toba.
We're going to be in the deepest pits of hell. What if that is the Mahdi? How can we raise arms against the Mahdi?
Yeah.
So that was a new dilemma now for the House of Saud, right? So what did the House of Saud do? You know what? We'll have to call in the clerics now. Do you understand?
Call in the who? The clerics.
Clerics. We gotta call right? We gotta call in the ulama.
Allah. And no, people, they weren't referring to me. I was just at that point something like 9 months old.
I'm sure you were even at 9 months old, you were making your mark for yourself as well.
I was doing this. I was like...
so this is because obviously the soldiers were saying and the people from the intelligence services and the police security services saying, hang on, we ain't gonna go in now. No chance. If that is the Mahdi, and they got doubts that it may be the Mahdi,
maybe,
and we can raise arms and fight against the Mahdi,
toba.
And that's it, internal damnation in the deepest pits of hellfire for us. And that's it. So let's call in the ulama, let's call in the clerics, We need a fatwa on this one, do you understand, What did the boys do, the clerics? Okay? They saw it as an opportunity, for themselves to get further conservative measures implemented.
Okay, this is interesting.
Okay. So what they said was, so they convened, they had a meeting for 3 days. These are the conservative clerics, for God's sake, for God's sake. Makkah is under siege.
They for 3 days, did you say?
For 3 days, Just give them power.
Can we have 5 meals a day, and we'll just need 3 days, and we'll be shortening the prayers.
So after 3 days, they came.
I mean, were they doing mut'a or something? What was going on?
Mufti. After 3 days, they came up with a basically, a list of demands.
Wow.
Okay? Conservative measures. And you know what? The irony is what? All of those demands were more or less the criticisms of Johimain.
So they're just asking for. So I mean, okay.
They were asking for stuff like, at the end of the day, because one of the things that was really great in Johimain, especially with TV stations, was even in back then, they had a female presenter on television.
Okay. No Googling her, people. No Googling her.
That was one of their demands. No female presenters, on television. Do you understand? Yeah, and also, also the criteria of programming that you can show.
So it's just to exercise control, really. That bring back that religious.
Further austere conservative measures were implemented, more or less exactly the same, as the criticism of Juhayman.
I wonder if the things like the mutawwa'a, the religious police thing, kind of stems from something like that at that point or something.
Well, it stems from the JMS, isn't it?
Yeah.
The JSM, sorry, they definitely stem from them.
Yeah, of course.
And the interesting thing is this: even now, I think it was last year, the year before, the Crown Prince, MBS Mohammed bin Salman, he actually talked briefly about the siege of Mecca. And he said that before the siege, Saudi Arabia was embracing modernity and we were progressive.
Wow.
As a culture, we were progressing. However, after the siege of Mecca, we just were even more conservative. And the reason being because the House of Saud wanted to appease the conservative clerics because they didn't want another uprising.
Yeah.
So even King Khalid commented at the time, and he said, and his words were, just as well they didn't go for my palace.
It's like, well, thank God it was just the Kaaba and not my video collection.
It wasn't my palace.
How would Islam possibly recover from that?
Anyway, Mufti, 3 days later, they're there, sitting with the king and all the major princes, and they turn around and say, okay, not a problem. We'll give the fatwa that these guys are all, heretics, and we'll do takfir on all of them. However, we want you to sign this first. We want you to sign this first. Yeah?
As you do in negotiations.
At this moment in time. Just look at the So then King Khalid had no choice, did he? Stuck in a corner.
We've got you by the the Los Cojones, so you better.
So the initial attack, that took place, in order to remove the rebels, took place at night. They turned all the lights off, and they entered into the masjid. Okay. And it was shocking, Mufti. Do you understand? You're talking about RPGs being fired in Safa and Marwa. Do you understand?
Coming from who? Coming from the anti-siege forces?
No. Coming from the security services. Because you know what Juhayman and his boys did? Yeah? They were in the caboose.
Okay.
Right? This was like Keystone Cops, Mufti. They were in the caboose. They stayed in the caboose.
Which is the basement. The basement.
The basement. The lights were off. You know what I mean? The National Guard was shooting at the security services. Do you understand? The security services were shooting at the intelligence services.
So they just ran in and just killed each other.
No plan, nothing coordinated, nothing organized. The radios weren't even synchronized. Let's just go in and let's just do it.
Allah.
You know, RPGs being fired, armored personnel carriers entered Safa Marwa, this getting blown up, that getting blown up. Juhayman's boys just laid low. That's all they did, just laid low.
This is coordination, people, coordination.
And then occasionally they popped up and fired back and killed loads of the security services, lots of National Guard. It was absolute carnage.
Wow.
Thousands died during the whole siege. So what happened? They had to retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the House of Saud, right, is in a serious pickle now. Do you understand? They underestimated, the resilience, of Juhayman and his boys. They underestimated their skills. They underestimated the amount of weaponry they had and how far they're willing to go. They underestimated it. And this is what, once again, the arrogance comes in. So what happened next?
Yeah.
King Hussein of Jordan phones King Khalid,
Okay.
to King Khalid, that we know what's going on in Mecca. The siege is taking place. Yeah, it's been going on for like 4 or 5 days now. I tell you what, I'm going to send over an elite Jordanian commando unit, right? My boys will come over. They'll do the job, no problem, right?
Right.
King Khalid says, thank you for your offer, but no thank you. No thank you.
Says thank you, but who are you anyway? Who the hell are you calling me?
The other princes are totally bemused, thinking, whoa, look, we're incapable of doing it ourselves. Come on, let's accept that. Let's embrace that at least, right? Why didn't you take on the offer from King Hussein of Jordan? And he goes, the house of Saud will not be indebted to the Hashemites.
Oof.
Because our father, it was our father and our grandfather fought his grandfather. We are not going to be indebted to the Hashemites. And this is where it gets interesting. Okay. And the first time I came across it, obviously there's nothing really historically conclusive. Because like I said, I mean, look, this was such a major event in the Muslim world. And the Saudis suppressed it. No information ever coming out. Nobody discusses it. And even the individuals who were involved, were very apprehensive to talk about it in case they get killed or picked. So you had this situation. So the next person now, and some of the information that through my research I got was both uncomfortable and disturbing.
Okay. What's that?
And I accept this. There's a whole different variety of different opinions and different accounts of what happened. But there's equally those which are quite disturbing and very uncomfortable. Okay. Anyway, next person that makes the phone call is King Hussein. Not King Hussein, sorry, the King of Morocco. Says, look, I've heard what's happened, not a problem. I'll send over and same offer, elite commando Moroccan military unit. We'll have the matter resolved in no time. Once again, King Khalid, thank you, but no thank you, puts the phone down.
Once again, he says, this is a new number, I don't know who you are. Why do people keep phoning me, for God's sake?
Once again, I'm just totally baffled, thinking, what just happened there? And King Khalid turns around and says, the house of Saud will not be indebted to another Arab. Okay.
Oh, you Chodrahat. Chodri Sab.
We're not going to do the Arab thing, yeah? All right. Now, there's different accounts of this, the next call, yeah? Because some historical accounts say that the Pakistani SSG, the Special Services Unit, were involved. However, the Saudis never, ever, will substantiate or admit they were involved, right? And personally, from all the different research that I've done, I'm of the opinion, and I'm open to be challenged upon this, Mufti, I'm of the opinion that the Pakistanis were not involved.
Were not?
Were not.
Okay, because I had always heard that they were involved,
I'm of the opinion that they're not involved, because when President Zia also contacted King Khalid, with the same offer of support and help, King Khalid gave the same answer. And when he was asked by the princes, they turned around and said, he said again, the house of Saud will not be indebted to another Muslim. Okay? So now it becomes interesting, Mufti.
Okay.
Who they bring in?
Right, who is it? Who could be the next caller, people? Who could it be? And imagine that's a wrong call. That's just a wrong number. It's like a pizza delivery.
A year before, in the early part of that year, Prince Naif, was the head of the Interior Ministry, was at a weapons and arms show just outside of Paris in France. Right?
Okay.
The French had set up, which is basically the world's first counter-terrorism special forces unit, okay, called, the GIGN, okay?
Okay.
So,
Gigan.
yeah. So when Prince Naif was there at this show, yeah, the GIGN commandos, yeah, basically jumped out of a plane in parachutes, right? And one of them, which was like the main person, his name was Captain Paul Burrell, right?
Okay.
He landed just by uh, Prince Naif, yeah? And he handed Prince Naif, yeah, a 9mm pistol and told Prince Naif, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me in the chest, yeah?
Okay.
And Prince Naif shot him 3 times because now it's commonplace Kevlar body armor, yeah?
Yeah.
But in those days, do you understand? It was like the Holy Grail. Do you understand?
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. 70s.
Nobody had seen anything like this. So there was Prince Naif, shot 3 bullets from a pistol straight into the chest of Captain Paul Burrell, yeah, with a right proper little action man. Yeah. And you got a picture of him. One of those pictures, you see him holding a gun.
Oh, is it one of the pictures that we've had today?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just.
Right? Yeah. Proper mercenary of money, soldier of fortune, Mufti, right? So anyway, he was so impressed, yeah, by this, right, Mufti, yeah, that he told King Khalid about, look, there's this special, highly trained, anti-terrorist unit, yeah, first one in the world, and this how impressed I was with these guys, right? The GIGN, yeah, and the GIGN, yeah, were quite innovative, right?
Okay.
Very innovative, right? And sometimes you wonder, thinking, why don't other people today use their methods, yeah, in hostage situations?
Okay.
Just that.
Okay.
When the perpetrators always take a big group of hostages, yeah, and they hold them for weeks and weeks, they always ask for food, don't they? Right?
Of course.
What happened, yeah, in the Horn of Africa a year earlier, or a couple of years earlier, a group of French students were taken hostage.
Okay.
Right? So when the perpetrators, asked for food, what the GIGN did, right? They injected all the food with tranquilizers.
Okay.
Yeah. Just yeah. So when obviously when the hostages ate, they were knocked out. But hang on, when the terrorists ate the food, they were knocked out as well.
La.
Look how simple this was.
That is actually, it's very common sense when, come to think about it. People, if you're doing a hostage situation, do not eat the food.
Pack your own lunch.
That's it. You got to take a packed lunch.
Yeah. Mom, can you pack me a bit extra today? Yeah, I'm just going to be involved in a hostage situation, Mom. Just in case. Might be a couple of days. So can you pack me enough for 2-3 days, Mom? Just make the bronte extra thick.
Allah, there you go.
There you are.
So, okay, so were they all KO'd then? These guys were all unconscious?
Then the GIGN went in, yeah, freed the hostages, and shot all the terrorists. This is what they did.
But I heard about this flooding and electrocuting. What's that about?
Listen, a variety of different things come in. But I will tell you what was actually used, right? Now. So, Prince Naif phoned up the French president and said, listen, we need the GIGN over here. We need them here, okay? This is the situation that we've got. And you actually see a picture, yeah, of Burrell, and I think the other individual, his name is, what's his name? Ignace Wudaki, right? You actually see a picture of them standing by a blackboard.
Oh, right, yes, there was, yes.
By the blackboard, isn't it, yeah? Where they basically sketched out, a map of the Grand Masjid. At that moment in time, they're actually training Saudi soldiers.
Okay.
Yeah. So-called Saudi commandos.
Yeah, there you are, people. You just saw that picture. Yeah, cool.
They're actually training them. And then there's another picture where there's 3 of them standing with their Saudi guide. They're in civilian clothes.
Okay.
That picture was taken in Taif.
There you are. You've just seen that picture. That's in Taif, people.
Okay? So, but like I said, I'm open to other opinions
So,
on this.
so the electrocution and the water flooding, that didn't happen.
Nah, not on the research I've done, but somebody else has got some other research around this because the reality is the information is very, very limited to actually, you have
Because
access.
mind you, that would have just electrocuted the hostages as well. It would have been a bit dumb. They go, I know, let's just flood it and electrocute it.
So, um, conversation with the president of France, getting to the defense minister, look, we need to send the GIGN out. However, at the same point, we can't leave a footprint there. No, nobody can know that the French were involved because you got Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, who's already labeled, America friends of the great Satan. Yes, sir. He's already challenging the legitimacy of the House of Saud to be the custodians of the two holy sites. Do you understand? There's also already criticism against the House of Saud. So now what? They couldn't resolve this matter. They have to call the French in. Sorry.
Yeah.
So absolute secrecy. Now, there was 3 officers from the GIGN that actually went out. Yeah. So you have Paul Burrell, Ignore Woodrick, and then you have Christian Lambert, and then you see them 3 in that picture standing there, right?
Sure.
There was another member, whose name was sorry, what can't he pronounce? Christian Protu was his name, right? He was also meant to go out with the other 3, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
However, he intentionally stayed behind in order to safeguard the return, of his 3 comrades, right?
Okay.
Because he had a kind of like, an epiphany moment, a light bulb moment, thinking, hang on, this mission is the absolute secrecy. It was never even recorded, in the French Ministry of Defense documents. They never even recorded it there. Absolute secrecy, right? His concern was, because of the level of secrecy, what if after they removed the rebels,
they just clean them out.
The Saudis decided to kill him, leave no witnesses. Just done. So he's thinking, I need to stay behind in order to safeguard their return. Do you understand? Right? Look at the amount of politics that are taking place everywhere, Mufti. Right?
Yeah.
So these guys land and they take with them, which was a very, very highly potent version of CS gas. Right?
Okay.
Now, let me try to actually, it's actually, what was it again? Dichloro benzylidine, what was it? Malan oniryl something. It is a very potent form of CS gas, right? And to Captain Paul Burrell's estimations, 0.3 milligrams, in a space of 1 cubic meter, would take about 5 minutes to kill somebody, and that's just 0.3 milligrams.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. Blood. People don't inhale it.
Listen, they took every piece of stock that the French had of this gas. They took it all. They took it with them. They took it. They cleaned it out. They cleaned the warehouses out. Right now, just to give you an idea about how the mindset of Paul Burrell, the captain leading the other 2, right? In order to, he actually tested this gas on himself.
Okay, is it going to knock himself?
To test how effective it was. Do you understand? He nearly died and he nearly went blind. But however, he ascertained that these are the consequences of this gas. This is the impact and effect it has on you. Do you understand? You can die and you can go blind because he tested it on himself. So anyway, they landed there, and their mission now was to train uh, the Saudi troops. It was to train the Saudi commandos. They were positioned and stationed in Taif.
Okay.
And from a distance, they were like, military advisors and consultants, right? So one of the things he actually commented on that when the Saudi commanders came, to the training course, yeah, because they were absolutely demoralized. They were deflated and demoralized. A lot of them were wounded. They had battle wounds. Do you understand? And all of them kept saying that, how well prepared the rebels are, the level of their weaponry. They kept commenting. They were totally demoralized. Do you understand? Yeah. So now the plan was that what they're gonna do is they're gonna make holes, yeah, into the Mataf area. You understand? Around the Kaaba,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
white,
yeah.
which is directly above the Kabul area. We're gonna make holes there, and then we're gonna drop this really potent gas, and we're gonna gas them out. Yeah,
Okay.
kill most of them, and the others that are left here, we'll just arrest them. And that's what they did.
Oh, that's what they did.
That's what they
Okay.
actually did. Yeah, they blew holes. They made holes into the ground, and unfortunately, some of the
No,
soldiers and
but
that
wait a
were
minute. I thought the tranquilizers was what they did.
no, not that. The tranquilizers. What they did was in the Horn of Africa when
Oh,
French.
over there, right? Okay,
That
because I thought you
was
were saying
French.
okay.
That was a different incident. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted
okay.
an example of how innovative, even though it's common sense, the GIGN was. That a couple of years earlier there was an incident in the Horn of Africa, and
Yeah.
that's what they did
Because
the
I was
tranquilizer.
thinking, because the two versions that I had heard was the gassing, and then I'd heard the electrocution with the water. I'd heard these two kind of versions floating around. But yeah. So they kind of gassed them like that. So what did they propel? They threw these
So
gas
what
things
they
in.
did was they blew holes into the Mataf area. Yeah. So then there was a hole from the Mataf all the way down into the labyrinth of tunnels, which was the Kabul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some of the Saudi soldiers who were, making and excavating these holes got killed because Jermaine and some of his boys were right under there with rifles and they're shooting away. Do you understand? Right?
Yeah.
Killed them, but they managed to throw a lot of the gas in, right? And they managed to kill a lot of individuals, a lot of the rebels. Even, the Mahdi was killed as well.
Oh, did he? Okay, he was killed, not arrested.
And the way he was killed was because he was so convinced that he was
The
the
Mahdi, clearly, clearly.
he was the chosen one. That when they were throwing some of these because they threw explosives down into the labyrinth area and the gas, they some accounts was for some of the rebels were that he used to run, pick up the grenades and the explosives and kind of like attempt to throw them back because he thought he was invincible
Used to
and
play
he'd
like
be
hot potato, hot potato. Yeah, catch, you
more.
catch. They're like, no,
Yeah,
you got to throw it out. It's like-
unfortunately, when he tried to pick up one explosive or one grenade, it blew up in his hand and he died. Good
I'm,
stuff. Yeah.
this,
So
you see, this is the
this,
genius, the
yeah,
geniusness.
so this disheartened some of the rebels who thought, oh my God, the Mehdi's dead. He was never the Mehdi then. If he's died so quickly, he never was. And Johamein once again stepped in with his charismatic charm and, his skills at, managing a crisis and his risk management skills, Mufti, and came and said to them, have you seen his body? Have you seen Muhammad Abdullah Qatani's body? Yes, no, oh, no, no, we haven't seen his body, but we heard the explosion. Well, if you haven't seen his body, how can you say he's dead?
Allah, huh?
He's still alive, people. He's still alive.
الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. They believe in the unseen.
He's still alive. So then the gas comes in. A lot of the rebels are killed. The ones who aren't killed are actually like kind of like knocked out, or what I mean, blinded by this gas. And the Saudi troops get in. They arrested about 60 of them. They managed to arrest Jahimain himself. And King Khalid actually came to question Jahimain. And he said
He personally, okay.
Personally.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, why? Why? And Joe Hemain obviously gave the answer of answers. It was my destiny.
Allah, 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 Allah. The Kung Fu Panda one.
Just that, it was my destiny. Understand? Be mindful. You understand? Yeah. Be mindful. Sometimes you meet your destiny, on the path you take to avoid it. You understand? Yeah.
Allah.
My destiny.
This is it. It
Yeah.
was his destiny, people. It was
You
his
understand?
destiny. Huh?
And then obviously the Saudis did what they had to do.
So they said, Itavimar, they go, this is your destiny as well.
And execution is your destiny as well. Let's all go over to the chop square. Do you understand? Okay, the 60th years. All right. You know what I mean? It's going to be a long one.
He was executed then, wasn't he?
With the rebel followers, he was executed.
And you know what was this though? Because the Saudi government kept a lock on this whole file and case, and it was only, I think, 2005 that they revealed it became.
They haven't actually, as a government, revealed it. It's just like snippets of information that's being leaked out, Mufti.
Okay, I thought okay.
Even today, I mean, one of the books that is worth reading is the Siege of Mecca. You know what I mean? By what's the author's name? Sorry, Mufti, I've got it here somewhere. Let me just get it out here.
I've got a very good one here somewhere.
And it's written by Yaroslav Torimov. Very, very good book. I mean, you know what I mean? And
is that not the one where the author gets to interview some of the people?
He does.
And he says it was in 2005 that they lifted for the first time, some legislation that allowed you to kind of contact. Yeah. Because I think that's the copy I've got, actually.
Even when they had lifted it, certain individuals that were involved in the Siege of Mecca, do you understand? Yeah. Or had an association or affiliation with it, you know what I mean? Or kind of like escaped before the troops came in. Because remember, a lot of his followers, so hang on, you know what I mean? The Mehdi's dead. What are we hanging around here for now? Let's,
They're going, the angel's going to come and rescue us. What's going on?
It's time to do a runner. And even then, when the author was interviewing, they turned around and said, well, have you got a government permit to talk about the Siege of Mecca? You needed a government permit to talk about the Siege of Mecca, yeah. And if you want to talk, can you please bring, an officer from the Interior Ministry or from the security services to sit in on our conversation, so I have permission to talk about the Siege of Mecca.
Wow.
But I mentioned earlier that there was one element which was quite disturbing and uncomfortable, right?
Okay.
Because Captain Paul Burrell, as long as he was an officer in the GIGN, and part of the French Defense Ministry, carried told what the Saudi line on this that we were inside. Do you understand? We gave consultation and advice from a distance.
Yeah, because this being the other thing as well, that non-Muslims are not meant to come into Mecca, is it?
Yeah. But he later said, I was there.
Hey, you naughty. Paul? Was it Paul?
Paul Burrell. Yeah.
Paul. Saint Paul.
Burrell. He said, I was there. He goes, I was there. I was leading the Saudi troops. I was leading the Saudi commandos.
He goes in a press conference, who do you think was leading them? Your dad? Of course not. It was me.
Because I was leading them. I was there. You understand? And in one of his memoirs, the way he talks about it was that, you know what? On the way to Mecca, I embraced Islam.
Huh? Okay, that's a strange twist. I wasn't expecting that.
On my way to Mecca, I embraced Islam. Yeah, went in, did what I had to do. When I was leaving Mecca, I denounced Islam.
Wow.
Got to the hotel, opened up a couple of beers and drank them with my colleagues.
What other way to leave Islam, then? Okay.
Now, Joe Hemain's executed. Yeah, most of his rebels are gone. But you know what still exists? And he still influenced individuals, Mufti.
What?
Yeah, was his teachings and his writings.
Hmm.
Right? Now let's get back to the American embassies being attacked globally. You understand? Muslims now, enraged by what's happened, America's to blame. They're the
Death,
perpetrators
death
of
to
the
America, that kind of
death to
thing. Yeah.
America. They start attacking the embassies. The worst case was the American embassy in Islamabad, in Pakistan, right? That when the protesters were coming towards the American embassy, because remember the outer perimeter of the American embassy was guarded by Pakistani troops, right?
Hmm.
When the Pakistani troops saw the protesters coming, they were of the same mindset, Mufti. The mindset was that the Americans were behind this. The
Yeah.
Americans were behind this siege. They took over our most holiest place. So what did the Pakistani troops do? They walked away and went and sat on the hill and watched.
Hmm.
Yeah? The protesters breached the outer perimeter, breached the inner perimeter, got inside the embassy, killed 2 American personnel. The rest of the American personnel in the embassy had to lock themselves in the vault room, which is this big room, which is like a massive safe, right?
Hmm.
It took President Carter 3 phone calls to General Zia. The first 2 phone calls Zia ignored.
Oh. Hi, Nakhre. It's like, who
And
you? Who you? Who you? Who you?
and Carter asked Zia, can you please go in and protect my people? Send the military, send your army in to protect my people. And that's when Zia went in.
He's
And
like,
later
yaar, kar do na yaar. Kar do
on,
na
yeah,
yaar.
and then
Yeah.
Carter had a speech later on actually complimented and commended General Zia for his fast action. Yeah,
Hmm.
3 calls it took. First 2 he ignored. Now
3 is Sunnah. 3.
Carter, when it comes to regimes, right? They categorize regimes, yeah, into 2 categories generally, yeah.
Okay.
They always use birds. You understand? The
Birds.
birds. Okay?
Okay.
Is it a dovish regime or is it a hawkish regime? Do you
A
understand?
dove, dovish. Dove
So,
from dove.
yeah,
Okay.
is it a dovish regime or is it a hawkish regime? Do you understand? And they always categorize Carter's regime when he was the president of the United States. They always called his regime a dovish regime. You know, so he was a lot more gentler, a lot more softer. He didn't believe in in military power. He believed in people power. You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
believed in dialogue and discussion. In fact, you know, during as at the beginning of the Iranian Revolution, even though the Shah of Iran was such a great friend of America, do you
Hmm.
understand? The Shah requested resources for his security services, for his army, in order to suppress the uprising, the revolution, and Carter blocked it.
Hmm.
He blocked it and said, no, 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 no. Do you understand? Democracy is good for the region. Do you understand? People rising up and demanding what they want. This is good for the region.
Allah. Freedom of speech, people. Freedom.
Little did he know, that Khomeini would come in and take, take 50 hostages, and that hostage crisis would last for over 1.5 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he still holds Carter, hold Carter and hold Carter's family until eternity, right?
Yeah.
Also in the regime was Kissinger, Henry
Hmm.
Kissinger. Yeah,
Okay.
Henry Kissinger was very much more hawk. Yeah, he believed in American military might. Yeah,
Hmm.
but during the siege of Mecca and American interests were being attacked across the Arab and Muslim world, yeah, this was an embarrassment for America now. Do you understand? Yeah, it was a blemish upon their might. You know what I mean? It was,
Hmm.
a mark upon their power. Do you understand? At the end of the day, their ego had been seriously inflated, Mufti, deflated, sorry. Yeah.
Deflate. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
Kissinger convinced Carter and said, look, forget this nonsense. We need to show an iron fist. We need to show military might. We need to show the world, basically, how powerful we are. So under that advice, Carter ordered the whole USS Pacific Armada group, the whole battle group from the Philippines to enter into the Persian Gulf. You had aircraft carriers, battleships, cruisers, frigates, submarines, the whole battle group, Mufti, the whole Armada into the Persian Gulf. Do you understand? We're here now. You understand? Now, there was another reason for this as well, which and I might as well talk about that now, because as the uprising was taking place in Makkah, the siege was taking place in Makkah, you had the Iranian Revolution, you had the hostage crisis. So this kind of emboldened the Shia in Saudi Arabia, especially in the East province, which is basically, where the majority.
Well, there's a strong Shia presence there,
the province and presence in the East. The East also happens to be, the location of Saudi Arabia's, black gold. It's oil. Do you understand? It's oil refineries are there. The rigs are there. It's all in the East. So what happened? The Shia in the East rose up because they was basically, they've been oppressed, under the Saudi regime for decades and decades and decades. So they rose up and they wanted to have their own revolution. They started attacking symbols of, Saudi government, the Arab Bank, the Al Saud Bank, government buildings, police stations, whatever. They started attacking. Now, this then made the Americans even more nervous because a lot of personnel who were working in the oil industry in the East Province was Americans.
Okay.
A lot of the security were Americans. So you had individuals, from the American government who were stationed there. Because remember, this is oil. You know what I mean? The world's economy depends upon this. And remember one thing, American troops have always been in Saudi Arabia. From the day they discovered oil, American troops have been in Saudi Arabia. You understand? The evidence is there. They've always been stationed there to protect their interests. Do you know what I mean? This is a global interest. So the Shia started rising up. The Secretary of State at that moment in time was Secretary of State Vance. He sent a memo, a telegram, to Ambassador West. I think it was West at the time, and basically said to him, look, put a plan together, evacuate all American personnel out of the East Province of Saudi Arabia, evacuate everybody. Do you understand, right? Because they didn't want another hostage situation like they're having in Tehran.
Yeah.
You understand? They didn't want to duplicate another situation. Think, oh my God, we've got American hostages taken in Tehran, and now we've got American hostages taken in the East Province. Next thing you know, people were taking Americans whenever they want. So he passed the West, put a plan together, evacuate everybody else. Ambassador West was absolutely appalled by this. And he wrote back saying, look, if we pull our personnel out, it will cripple the oil industry of Saudi Arabia. The oil price will shoot up. And it will be a global crisis, and this will be the beginning of the fall of the House of Saud.
Allah, the House of Saud.
The House of Saud will fall. Right? Now, he also got an assurance from Prince Bandar bin Sultan, right? Ambassador then going soon to be the ambassador Washington. And he said to Ambassador West, look, don't worry about it. We'll quash this uprising. Right? However, what you need to do, is turn a blind eye to all the human rights violations that are going to occur. Okay? So what did the Saudis do? They sent in their military machine against civilians, Mufti. Just that. These civilians who were revolting, okay, they might have had sticks, The one in 1,000 might have had a gun, yeah, but even then it was probably some, discarded Second World War or First World War, rifle or something. Yeah. What did they have? They had bats and sticks and metal bars. And what did the Saudis send in? They sent in helicopter gunships, APCs, you know what I mean? Tanks, artillery guns, and they pulverized them. They pulverized them. They butchered them. They cut them down with bullets from machine guns and RPGs. That's why Prince Banda said to him, as long as you turn a blind eye, yeah, to human rights violations, and the Americans turned the blind eye to it.
And in many ways, that's still going on till today, really.
Still going on.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's happening. So back to the whole USS Pacific Armada entering into the Persian Gulf to show military might, because they were, they had to make a stand. They had to show that, look, we are the daddy in this region. However, by entering the Persian Gulf, it made the Russians jittery, Mufti. The Russians got concerned. They became paranoid because you got American aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf. So that means what? American fighter planes are 1 hour, 10 minutes away from the backyard of Russia. These are the Caucasus region. Do you understand? Dagestan, Azerbaijan, you know what I mean? Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, you know what I mean? All Chechnya, the backyard of Russia now, American fighter planes are 1 hour, 10 minutes away. Mufti. So what did the Russians decide to do? They wanted to balance the power in the warm waters of the Indian Ocean. So they wanted to have a military presence, Mufti. So they invade Afghanistan. But their intention was never to remain in Afghanistan. Their intention was always to come south into Pakistan and take Karachi and build a military naval base in Karachi to balance the power in the warm waters. And even at that, when the Russians invaded Afghanistan, the Communist Party of Pakistan were at the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan with flags waving, yeah, in anticipation, yeah, of the arrival of the Russian communists.
Another messiah on its way.
Mufti. Russians invade Afghanistan. Yeah, the jihad begins in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Jihad starts in Afghanistan. We've got to push them back. Yeah. Sheikh Abdullah Azam suddenly becomes the spiritual head, yeah, of the Mujahideen globally. He's given free passage and free access to every country in the world in order to recruit jihadists and Mujahideen to fight the Russian communists. Yeah, they even had an office in Washington. Everywhere there were offices. Do you understand? Yeah, and who was Abdullah Azam's number one student? Osama bin Laden. Yeah, Osama bin Laden goes to Afghanistan, creates Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda then Afghanistan becomes what? Yeah, the central place of every jihadi organization in the world. Yeah. They all came through Afghanistan. All of them.
Yeah, because I mean, that whole era, what it did was it reformed, reshaped the mentality of Muslims on a huge scale into this Mujahideen kind of psyche, that this Islam, this era of the rise of the Mujahideen, especially right throughout the 80s and into the 90s as well, but it has damaged the face of Islam to such an extent that it would take decades now to return.
Yeah, to repair it. Yeah. Because if you look, no Al Qaeda and everything that happened after that, no Abu Musa al Zakawari in Iraq. Do you understand? Yeah? No him in Iraq, no Abu Bakr al Baghdadi, no ISIS Mufti. The trail comes back, Mufti,
wow.
to the of Mecca.
That is amazing, man. I saw some of where you were going, but I did not see this. This is breathtaking.
Yeah,
How the whole the Mujahideen era is
era,
really a reaction, a direct cause and
action
effect
of the
of
sea.
the siege of Mecca. Wow, that is.
And not only that, look at the, Bin Laden commented on Juhayman many times. Yeah, and he actually, he spoke highly of his writings and his teachings. But what he said was, you know what, he went a bit far with the announcement of the Mehdi.
I have Bin Laden
Yeah,
being
he went a bit
critical.
far with the announcement of
Bin Laden goes, come on, guys. I'm a critical,
the
neutral
Mehdi.
guy at times. You know what I'm saying?
Bin Laden actually criticized the House of Saud for their desecration of the holy masjid. When he said you could have, what he said was, the situation could have been resolved through dialogue. Do you understand? So he criticized the House of Saud, for their desecration of the holiest of the most holiest places. And even Muhammad al-Muqtasi, you could see, Muqtasi as maybe not the spiritual, but sometimes some would class him as the intellectual leader, of Al Qaeda. Even
Okay.
he referred so many times to Juhayman's teachings. Yeah, because
Damn.
remember, he
Okay.
spent time in jail with Musa al-Zakhrani, the individual that set up Al Qaeda in Iraq. He spent time in prison with him, and during that period, he would disseminate Juhayman's teachings. You understand? And then you have another major incident that takes place in 1981. You had the assassination of Anwar al-Sadat.
Oh yes, of course.
You
Of course.
understand? Yeah, led by was it a first lieutenant in the Egyptian army, and I think his name was Khalid Khalid Islam Boli. I can't, maybe I'm totally getting pronounced wrong at this moment in time. Yeah, but look at the way they assassinated Anwar Sadat on a military parade. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was Egypt Day. You know what I mean? Anwar Sadat in the VIP box with all the other, delegates from the military, high-ranking officers in the military and the government and other VIPs. Yeah, and the military parade. The helicopters are flying past, the soldiers are marching past. The tanks are slowly moving past, saluting the VI box. Yeah, with their gun turrets. And next comes along what? The armored personnel carriers, Mufti. Yeah, and all of a sudden one of the armored personnel carriers slows down, the machine gun turns towards the VIP box. Yeah. Khalid and some of his other boys jump out the back and they open fire into the VIP box. Yeah. The interesting thing is this. Yeah. Khalid's brother was a student of Juhayman.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, he didn't part. He left Saudi Arabia before the siege, but he was so
Part of that JMS and the whole thing.
so infatuated by Juhayman and some of his teachings and that he came back and he said, tell Khalid all the time, this is what happening, this is all this. And then also remember one thing, yeah, it changed. In jihad, you always had two categories, offensive and defensive. Yeah? But it changed back at that time as well by an author called Abdul Salam al-Faraj, who wrote The Neglected Duty. Even he was influenced by the teachings of Juhayman. And what did he say? He goes, there's no offensive jihad anymore. No offensive jihad. It's all defensive. Yeah? Because our lands and our countries have been so infiltrated by, non-Muslims and,
I see. Okay.
all these individuals here. It is no longer, we are in defensive jihad. So the criteria that applies to an offensive jihad, do away with that. It is all defensive now.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. And kind of guilt tripping people with all of this as well. Yeah.
And once again, You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It goes back to Joey Main's teachings and his.
Wow. That is crazy though. I mean, it is honestly, yeah.
How significant
I,
book
yeah.
the 30th of
Subhanallah.
November
Hmm.
1979 was, the Siege of Mecca. It has molded the world we live in today.
Wow. Yeah. That is amazingly put together. I have to say, Ustad, that it was epic in kind of just bringing to our attention, just attenuating the whole thing, refocusing our perspective on how these things are linked.
Mhm.
Because people, I myself didn't see it like to that extent. I didn't see that link. I saw other links, but not like this. And that just goes to show, wow. And you know what? I would love to. I know we've been. It's almost 2:30, but this second part, the post Jahiman and
Okay.
this rise of the Mujahideen. I would love to, get you back on another
No,
session and
absolutely.
expand on this whole thing of how has that gone into, like, what kind of remnants of that thought are we still suffering from and seeing? Because I think there's a lot, and the way you mentioned a lot of these links with the Mujahideen, the kind of Mujahideen participants, and you've got how they were all interconnected, how
Absolutely.
the Russia-Afghan thing really changes
Yeah.
the
And
world as we know it.
how some of the most, within the jihadi genre, the
Yeah.
most influential, actors and celebrity leaders, right, have all been influenced either directly or indirectly to some extent by Johemein's teaching. Or not, I wouldn't use the word indirectly, third party. So maybe they didn't have access to Johemein themselves, but they definitely were influenced by somebody who had direct access to Johemein. And the thing is, you know, we're short on time for tonight, and obviously, it's getting on a bit, but I could, really delve deep into that, but we'll leave that for another session.
Yeah, we got to do this because, I feel that it's sometimes, um, I feel it's so important to highlight to people because people ask so often. They ask me things like, "Oh, but look, why are the clergy like this in, let's say, in parts of Pakistan or in parts of the world, or why?" And it's hard to explain to people that you don't understand that there was an era of formation
That's
that
right.
kind of created this mindset.
Right.
Now it's gonna take, unfortunately, maybe two generations to kind of be able to return to a natural state of mind. But yeah, so I think definitely you know what, we've got to get you back on, Ustad. We've got to kind of go over all of that.
One quote, yeah, from the individual that arrested Joe
Okay,
right?
okay.
And what he said was this, yeah, and obviously it's a quote by him recently. His name was Abu Sufyan, right? And what he said was this. He goes, just as well, back in 1979, there was limited technology,
Yeah.
right? There was no internet, there was no mobile phones, there was no social media, nothing like that. Yeah. If there had been, yeah, all that technology and all that internet, all that social media and all this, he goes, this lot would have taken over the world. They would have conquered the world if
Hmm.
they got their message out fast, wide, and everywhere.
Yeah,
Because
I mean that's
like we talked about, look at, everybody agreed with him. All, the only point of contention was, yeah, the Mehdi, and you shouldn't have taken the Kaaba. I mean, you should have gone for the palaces. That's what Bin Laden said. You shouldn't have gone for the masjid. You should have gone for King Khaled's palace.
it's
That's
like,
what.
well, tomato.
And even and even the ulama, before they issued that fatwa to basically categorize these guys as, heretics and bagis and rebels and all the rest of it, that list that they presented of demands that they presented King Khalid at the time, yeah, was exactly more or less what Joey Main was criticizing the House of Saud for.
Wow. This, people,
Okay, Mufti.
this is food for thought. Think it over. let it kind of settle, marinate, and just reflect. Do your own research. Ustad, if people, right, so first of all, I'm very grateful, shukran, for taking your time out. And really, that's an immense amount of research, man. That's so, it's so deep, and the whole thing, I mean, so just, and how you've connected it, I totally love that, man. So shukran for that. Much love for that. Ustad, for people who may want to reach out to you, connect with you, what are the best places? Is it Instagram, Facebook, what's Twitter? What's
Now the best place is just email me. You want to connect out to me, yeah?
Okay, email?
Atif Iqbal1@hotmail.co.uk. Just email me.
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Just email me.
At?
That's Atif Iqbal.
Atif Iqbal.
1, the number 1, at hotmail.co.uk.
Okay, so you got that, people. Atif Iqbal, the digit 1, at hotmail.co.uk. And you can...
I just want to second that. I do encourage each and every individual to do their independent research. Read about this event that took place, because it's molded the world we live in today.
Yeah, I have to say, it definitely got me thinking, because I don't really see it like that. Although I saw many things, but sometimes, you've got things in front of you and you don't realize that some dots are more connected than you can envisage. But yeah, much love, shukran, Ustad, absolutely. And when Atif came on today, he said, it's been almost 3 months. I haven't even been to the gym, and I'm thinking, come on. I mean, he's coming on here all pumped, biceps ripping out of his shirt. He's
no. It's not. It's gone, man. Mufti's gone.
Like, everybody watching this is feeling like, oh, bloody hell. They're feeling like, the topic is like, and then on top of that, they're looking at Atif and they're thinking, bloody hell. Yahan kya ho raha hai? Islam ko kya ho raha hai? Yahan kya ho raha hai? Ah, man. Much love, as always. People, I hope you guys...
for giving me that time and to talk about something that I don't know if the word passionate is right.
No, you're very passionate about it, man. I can see it, and it pours right through it. It kind of kindles within us.
And I really would like, other, members of the Muslim and non-Muslim community to actually know more about this. Because remember one thing, this was the first act, of international jihadi terrorism,
wow,
that had global ramifications, and the Saudis just pushed it aside as if it was a local event.
So
anyway,
think that over, people. Other than that, if you've got any issues and you want to reach out, you've heard the email address. It's been there. The name is spelled on the screen. You can see that, Atif Iqbal. Right, and anything, if you want to reach out to me, as always, the usual social media places. People, take very good care of yourselves. Much love. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi